Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings, everyone in Israel and China listening, especially all our friends in the Mao hats over in China. Good to have you with us. The damned Yankees are the only one to have won their series. We have three other divisional series tied 2-2. One of them involves the Dodgers and that other team from Washington, D.C., the Nationals, that's got the Beltway shorts in a clinch, in a cinch. And, in fact, John Allen is cinched more than anybody. How are you, John Allen?
I am very good, Hugh.
You're going to be up late tonight, aren't you?
I will be up as late as that game goes.
You see, you are not one to walk out in the eighth inning if you're down 3-0, are you?
Not only that, I'm also not one to walk out in the eighth inning if I'm up 9-0.
You know, that is a genetic thing. My dad I never saw the end of a Browns game from 1965 to 1974. I went to every single one in Muni, but my dad was genetically incapable of staying in the seats to the end. He hated parking jams so much. So I never saw the end of a Browns game. You're the opposite of that. You're one of those people, there's life, there's hope. Even if it's a 20-0, one way or the other, you're sticking there.
I am sticking there, and I'm also somebody who watched the Nationals exit the National League Division Series ignominiously, repeatedly, and often after having led by a large number of runs in decisive games before. So
I'm not asking for a prediction because I know you don't jinx stuff, but you are there. And who was on the mound tonight for the Dodgers?
Walker Buehler's on the mound for the Dodgers. Steven
Buehler?
Strasburg, Nationals.
Buehler? Okay. Who's on for the Nats?
Steven Strasburg.
Okay. Well, you can't ask for more, can you?
You can't. So my guess with that awesome pitching matchup is that it probably ends in a 10-9 game for somebody in 12 innings with an outfielder giving up the winning run.
Look, I follow the Tribe. I don't follow the Nats. So tell me who the poor reliever is who trended on Twitter 2 nights ago, who gave up like 1 million runs for the Nationals. Who's the guy, Joe somebody? Joe Neely?
Oh, no. It would have been, I'm not sure, the person who gave up all the runs for the Nats the other night was Patrick Corbin.
No, some poor reliever came in and he trended right up. And I didn't know this, that the National fans hated him the way that the Indians fans have hated various relievers over there. You know, there's always one reliever that the fans have to hate on, right? They hate on him. I think it was Joe Neely. Do you have a guy named Joe Neely?
No. You know, but I will say this. I know the Dodgers have Joe Kelly, who has had multiple stops where fans are not really
Maybe it's Joe Kelly was blowing up. I really don't follow National League Baseball at all. So, but I just was amused that poor relievers. What a job, right? What a job. Were you a reliever?
Occasionally.
Oh, I think it's like being asked to come in and have an ulcer. I think it's like the most ulcer-inducing goalie in soccer and reliever in baseball. Let's get to the news. Pat Cipolloni's letter. I'm calling this the kangaroo court impeachment. I think it's hilarious. Pat Cipollone undressed the fact that this is unlike one of these things just doesn't belong here. One of these things just isn't the same. The Andrew Johnson impeachment, the Nixon impeachment, the Clinton impeachment, and the Trump impeachment. And the only one in which they haven't had a House vote before it began, and they aren't extending any due process protections or the rights of inquiry to the president about to be impeached, is this one. Do the Democrats realize this will eventually corrode their shredded credibility at all?
I think I think there are some legitimate arguments within that, right? But I'm not sure that the White House is the right place to make those arguments, right? And the reason I say that obviously is that the two important pieces of the Constitution. One, that impeachment is the sole power of the House, and two, that the right to make the rules in the House is reserved to the House, both under Article 1. So when Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, makes that argument, it seems like a very valid one, that the House is not operating the way that it's supposed to, that the impeachment process isn't running the way that it's supposed to. When the White House counsel says this isn't the way an impeachment should run, this is how I would run an impeachment, this is what you need to do to run an impeachment process, it really sounds like the White House imposing from the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue its view on how things should be done. Some of those things, for instance, you talk about like the subpoena power for the minority party. That's something that is legitimately contested, right? Like, should the minority party, or should the the allies of the White House be able to subpoena witnesses?
Yeah, page 4
in this
of
case?
let me read page 4 of the Cipollone letter. In addition, the House has not provided the committee's ranking members with the authority to issue subpoenas. The right of minority to issue subpoenas, subject to the same rules as the majority, has been the standard bipartisan practice in all recent resolutions authorizing presidential impeachment inquiries. So it's a kangaroo court. They're not doing what the other ones have done.
Right. So that I would look at and say, like, that's a perfectly legitimate, valid argument. However, one that has a stronger case coming from McCarthy, given the institutional prerogatives.
Yeah, but pause, John. McCarthy can't make.
Some of the others I'm not sure about, right? I mean, the right to cross-examine witnesses. The House process is not intended to be the House impeachment process is not intended to be a trial, right?
No, but once you
once
you concede 1 point of departure from precedent, then Kevin McCarthy becomes rhetorically useful, but does not have to respond to subpoena requests. The White House counsel does. And therefore, the White House counsel's response is the Article 2 response to Article 1, which is Article 1, we see you. Article 1, we know what you're doing. Article 1, you've done something new and radical. And Article 1, therefore, we think it's unconstitutional. And by the way, Article 1 can bring an article of impeachment eventually. Somewhere a vote will be held on whether or not the position of the president is impeachable. And if that's what they impeach the president on, they'll lose. And people will laugh at them.
Right. I mean, the argument from the White House seems to be the people don't really care if the president exercises power outside of his jurisdiction, and they will punish the Congress for exercising.
It's a grand constitutional collision. It's not a crisis. Article 2 is saying to Article 1, pound sand. Article 1 has their authority, which is to pass an article of impeachment and send it to the Senate. The Senate will badminton it right out of there. There is this silly Mitt Romney's going to lead a delegation of 13 senators. I guess he needs 18 senators. He needs 20 senators to cross over with him to vote with the Democrats to impeach the president. It's the silliest thing in the world. It's not going anywhere. It's a kangaroo court for the benefit of our network, MSNBC. It is actually just helping MSNBC's ratings, and I think Sean Hannity's ratings. But at some point, don't the Democratic candidates say to Nancy, we're not able to talk about anything we want to talk about, and certainly the lower tier candidates can't even raise money when the kangaroo court is sitting.
I'm not sure that's true that they're not able to talk about the things that they want to talk about, at least from the perspective of the presidential candidates. From the congressional candidates, that may be more difficult. What I see from the presidential candidate level is they have not been talking about impeachment a whole lot. I don't see that or hear that from Elizabeth Warren on the stump. You don't.
Well, she's ahead.
See that a lot from. I'm sorry.
She's ahead.
Correct. I don't hear or see that from Pete Buttigieg on the stump. We don't really hear a lot of it. I mean, Biden's sort of inextricably linked to this at this point, right? So there is some of that from him on the stump. Sanders has been obviously down a little bit with the heart attack. And when I say down, I mean he's not been out on the trail, with the heart attack that he suffered. But this is something, and the last debate, unbelievably, nobody talked about impeachment at all in the last Democratic debate. That's obviously going to change in the next Democratic debate in Ohio, in Columbus, Westerville, Ohio, actually, because A, the situation has changed, and B, Tom Steyer, who spent all that money on impeachment, is going to be on the debate stage. So we'll see that change some. But I think the presidential candidates have actually had an amazingly free ride in terms of not having to talk about impeachment, given what's going on.
Tom Steyer, the John Connolly without the charisma and the experience. Donald Trump has tweeted, a total scam by the do-nothing Democrats for the good of the country. The witch hunt should end now. Then he tweeted, the whistleblower's facts have been so incorrect about my no-pressure conversation with the Ukrainian president. Now the conflict of interest and involvement with a Democratic candidate that he or she should be exposed and questioned properly. This is no whistleblower. The whistleblower's lawyer is a big Democrat. The whistleblower has ties to one of the Democratic opponents. Why does the ICIG allow this scam to continue? And then he should be impeached for fraud, talking about Adam Schiff. I think he senses a winner here, John Allen. I think he senses a real winner that if people get out of their bubble and realize The American people are disproportionately due process oriented. I think the president's got a winner here. Last 45 seconds to you.
I think he's terrified at the prospect of being impeached for what it'll do to his legacy, and I think he is concerned about the possibility that an impeachment would change the public perception of him heading into an election, even if the Senate does not remove him from office.
But you think the Nationals have a chance tonight, too? I just want people to have context. I want people to have context. John Allen, D.C., follow him on Twitter from NBC, the digital reporter of the ages.